Teacher does not want the student to be thrown out of the classroom. But you see, whenever we do not have that final ultimatum,
and all
okay, and you have gone through all of your options from the standpoint of counseling, from the standpoint of calling parents, from the standpoint of doing whatever. The most important thing is a teacher wants control in that class, and if that kid is causing problems in that class, that teacher will do all that they can to get rid of that student.
So what's wrong?
That's wrong.
19 states have found another way to do it. The city of Pittsburgh has found another way to do it. The city of Philadelphia has found another way to do it. The United States and South Africa are the only two countries left in the world that allow corporal punishment. There are other ways to do it. Is the quality of education different in those 19 states than in Pennsylvania? And if they can tell me it is, I'll rethink my position. But the fact is, there are other ways to do it.
Stand by right here.
There's other alternatives.
Like what?
Isolated classroom environment. Take a student out and teach them inside that particular room.
We agree.
You know, this is 1990.
What are they springing? But do you have to have another teacher who takes care of all of these bad kids?
Again, it comes down to economics and cost. It's cheaper to paddle them than it is to try and fix them.
No.
Is that the case? Cheaper to paddle than to fix it?
I think it's a really sad commentary that you've got to use this negative motivator to teach respect. You know, you talked about slapping their hand, the boiling water example. I think it's a really sad commentary using, hitting them to teach respect. I think there's other ways to gain respect.
Reasoning works, and it's absolutely incorrect to do that.
Stand by, gotta ask. Were you paddled?
Yeah.
All right, how old were you when it happened?
I was 13.
What happened?
I was talking in class, and he brought me out in the hall. He took the paddle out, waved it in front of me, in front of the whole class, and brought me in the hall and smacked me.
And there you go, that's for talking in class. That's for talking in class. That's just that nerve being hit. I was hit all the time in Hebrew school. Those teachers had the right to smack your knuckles with a ruler. And it's for what infraction?
Was this in a public school?
Yeah.
It was.
And see, the other thing that happened, he said the teacher waved the paddle or the principal waved the paddle. That doesn't matter. What they were concerned about was getting a residual effect. People wanted to threaten other kids, saying, "Ha-ha, you see what's going on." It was theatrical.
Well, I don't see why you would want to have to hit the kid. Where I went to school, they had the option. What they did instead is they gave us detention. A kid, there's nothing worse than detention. You come in on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. and they say, dress bad because you're going to be doing jobs we don't want the janitor to do. Now that's something that...
What'd you have to do?
You had to get underneath the bleachers, clean out from underneath the bleachers, grease, grime.
With what, a toothbrush or something?
I mean, it was like a little rag. It was ridiculous. Now something like that is going to reinforce to the kid, don't get in trouble. Spanking, getting hit, I've gotten hit. It didn't do anything for me. I just turned around and said, okay. 30 minutes later, my butt didn't hurt anymore, and it didn't reinforce in any way, shape, or form. But coming in on a Saturday and losing my own personal time out of school, that bothered me.
There are a lot of good, excellent means, reasonable means, and that was a very reasoning means to control your behavior. Now, you were talking about...
So that's an option. Well, hold on one second. Do you concede that that's an option?
Sure, oh, certainly. Certainly.
Hey, man,
I stay after work with children.
Why don't you do it?
I stay after work. When you get to the X point, there's nothing else to do. Well, that's an option. Why can't you use that?
I'm talking to children.
Hold on one second. He's agreeing with you. I need to hear somebody who's not agreeing with. Yes.
No, that's a detention and so on. One of the problems with using detention is that a lot of kids are bused to school. You can't do that. In an ideal situation, that's a good way to do it, no question about it.
And you've said
the purpose of having, whether it's paddling or whether it's detention or whatever it is that whenever you have improper behavior, there has to be a consequence. It is a punishment. Even in our adult society, if I speed and the police catch me, I get a ticket.
But you can't
get legally, I get a ticket. It's not a matter, it's not that I don't respect the law. I do respect the law, but nevertheless, the way they enforce the law is there's a penalty for me if I violate the law.
All right.
And that's really what you're dealing with in a school. There has to be a penalty if kids don't behave as they ought to.
Excuse me, the student must have that respect for the penalty. And the penalties at the moment are not working.
But he's saying he had respect for coming in on a weekend and doing it.
That's wonderful. I'm saying if you can present a penalty which will work for such and such students, fine.
So you can see there are other alternatives.
The teachers constantly use them.
Good gracious, we could be bringing these two sides together. Let's take a break.
These two sides are not apart, Ann. Right.
Join us Monday when some local Pittsburghers will share their most creative ideas for crafts. Easy to make, inexpensive gifts that will have your personal touch. Monday at 10. All right, let's pick it up. Now, Joe, I believe that what really burns you about this is that you believe Representative Vian, this legislation suggests that if you've paddled kids in the past, you've been an abuser. Is that it?
Yes, it's almost like I was considered an abuser by this bill coming, and all teachers possibly are in that same little bucket, and I do not agree with that.
Representative Vian, are you saying he's been abusing kids?
Absolutely not. But I can tell you there is a fact, documented fact, that there have been kids who have required medical attention after being paddled in Pennsylvania. That's a documented fact. It's a fact that we've had at hearings, and I'm not suggesting that this gentleman right here didn't know how to handle his situation. I'm suggesting that on balance, as a matter of public policy, it's not worth the consequences.
Well, Mike, I would say on balance, you're right, there have been some problems, but on balance, those problems are the exception. They're not the rule.
And but you allow but he's going to argue, do you allow the circumstance?
The most recent abuse case to make history and court cases, the child is in my school. He arrived there the day after the punishment, the corporal punishment, the abuse, perhaps, in any other school. And
alleged abuse.
Alleged abuse. Actually, it's been defined by a court that it was abusive. Yeah. That's excessive behavior. So if we're going to have excessive behaviors, and they do exist, and that's terrible, and we all agree that we hate that.
This bill protects one child.
Our bill turns around and has an excessive response to that. I suggest that the best answer in behalf of our children and our future lies somewhere in the middle. We don't have to go to the excessive total abandonment.
And what we
can control.
And what the bill does is it says to parents, we'll tell you what you should think about it. Not the individual school district should decide, but we, the state, will decide how not only public schools ought to operate, but how private schools ought to operate, how religious schools ought to operate, how they all ought to operate. In fact, if some of these people had their way, they would tell parents how they ought to raise their own children in the home.
Stand by.
I don't agree with that at all.
Representative Vian, would this ban paddling in all schools, public, private?
Absolutely, public, private, and every school in Pennsylvania. The fact of the matter is, we already tell schools how many days a year they have to go to school.
This is just one more thing that you believe in. All right, stand by. Beverly, hold on. Got to bring in somebody from home. Beverly from Penn Hills. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I think really what we need here is a means to protect the child and the teacher. Some children just absolutely don't respond to anything but a spanking. A surveillance camera is used in a bank to protect our money. Why can't we have them in the schools to protect the child?
All right, thank you so much for calling in. Go. Very quickly.
I'd just like to ask the educators up there. I was a substitute teacher and had to witness a paddling, and I felt that the teacher had a lot of frustration that she put behind that paddle, and that little kid was a fourth grader. She had tried to, but what did that teach him?
That's why that should be done by the office. I've argued that for 20 years.
No, wait a minute. The office was the principal, right?
No, this was by the teacher.
Oh, by the teacher.
Well, what did that teach him about the value of the homework that he hadn't been passing in? It taught him nothing.
And are we willing to chance that? Again, I want to stress that most of these paddlings go on with the small ones, the first to fourth graders. The ones who can't defend themselves, the ones, and also abuse is not just physical.
Actually,
it's emotional, and when you tell a child, stand up, you're going to the principal's office to be paddled in front of the whole class, that is as abusive to me as the paddling itself.
Most teachers,
they take them there, it's sadistic.
Right.
I think they have frustration. Who are we? I don't know what that teacher's life is about. I don't know what the principal's life is about. I don't know what's going to trigger in him the looks of this child.
Got to take a break. We're coming back to wrap things up in a moment. Final comment right here.
Yes, the goal of discipline is to teach self-control, limits, and socially acceptable behavior. Hitting is not socially acceptable behavior.
And we're talking, you're from the Parental Stress Center, yeah. Representative Vian, is this going to become law or not?
I think it is. I brought the bill up to have a healthy debate. We're having that healthy debate statewide. I think the House Education Committee will deal with it in the very near future.
Alfondy, are you going to fight it all the way?
Absolutely, and if the bill does pass, it's going to make it more difficult for teachers and administrators to function in our schools. The bill is not necessary.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great weekend.